Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Julie Smyth. Today's top stories. Climate change plan to severely limit how people can use fossil fuels over the next decade. 50% increase in the numbers of people waiting to see a consultant in Waterford. Dutch shipping company to offer new routes from Waterford. And in sport, Roscommon football manager Anthony Cunningham has now won provincial titles in both football and hurling in different provinces. A new government plan is going to severely limit how people can use fossil fuels over the next 10 years. The Climate Action Plan is being signed off on at a specially convened cabinet meeting. Our political correspondent Sean Defoe has more.
The warnings on climate change have been stark. Simply put, the argument for action is that we have just over a decade to save the planet. That's the kind of warning that looms over this government action plan. It contains guidelines and targets for all departments and agencies and gives us an idea of what Ireland in 10 years might look like. No new petrol or diesel cars being sold and those on the road banned from urban areas. Almost 1 million electric cars being driven. 70% of our energy coming from renewable sources. Bans on oil and gas boilers in new homes. More working from home, and fossil fuels becoming prohibitively expensive thanks to rising carbon taxes and other levies. The government says this plan will set a roadmap for getting there, but there's still some questions. What does it mean for industries like farming? What kind of financial incentives will there be for home retrofitting or for buying electric cars in the first place? And while everyone knows that action is needed, how will voters feel when it starts to hit their lifestyle and their pockets? Sean Defoe, Leinster House.
Arrangements are being made for the Garda Commissioner to apologise in person to former Garda Majella Moynihan. She was threatened with dismissal when she had a baby with a colleague outside marriage in the 1980s. Over the weekend, both the Garda Commissioner and Justice Minister issued statements apologising for her treatment by An Garda Síochána over 30 years ago. It's been confirmed Commissioner Drew Harris will meet with Majella Moynihan and apologise in person for what happened at that time. There's been a 50% increase in the numbers of people waiting to see a consultant in Waterford over the past 4 years. The numbers has breached the 40,000 mark for the first time, as Sinead Ahern reports.
40,103 people were waiting for an outpatient appointment at UHW at the end of May. It's the highest number since the National Treatment Purchase Fund began publishing the data at the end of 2014. The Waterford figure was 26,000 in May of 2015. Of the 40,000, 11,500 are waiting at least 18 months to be seen. Ear, nose and throat has the longest list in the hospital, with the 9,200 waiting to see a consultant for the first time. Almost 40%, or 3,600, are on that list for 18 months or more. Almost 7,000 people are waiting for an orthopaedic appointment, a quarter of whom are waiting at least a year and a half. Close to 5,000 are on the dermatology list, with 1,300 waiting at least 18 months.
A Waterford woman says she can't understand why the HSE will not refund her the cost of medicinal cannabis for her seriously ill daughter. 27-year-old Cassie Stevens suffers from severe epilepsy caused by a rare disease. Her family is paying €9,000 a year to source the cannabis from the Netherlands. Mary Stevens said they did everything right and received the licence to get the cannabis oil.
So we went off in the end of January and got her oil. And from day one, she just started getting better and better. And the seizures started decreasing and decreasing. She was having seizure clear days, which she'd never had since the day she was born. Her first seizure was in the labour ward, like when she was born. Her second prescription came due in May. And I said to John, my husband, look, sure, we'll take out a loan, and when I get reimbursed, we'll just pay back the loan. So we took out a loan for the second one. So we were in 6,000, that was so far.
Mary says they were told last Monday that the HSE was refusing the refund.
And I couldn't understand why. Because Vera and her daughter Ava, they'd gotten the refund. And we hold the same licences. We go to the same pharmacist in Holland. Everything was the same. So I just couldn't understand why Cassandra was being refused and another 3 families were getting the refund.
Dungarvan Community Hospital remains closed to visitors due to the outbreak of a vomiting bug. The closure is expected to last until midweek at least. Hospital management say the restrictions are in place in the interest of patient care and to curb the spread of the illness at the hospital. Visitors will be allowed in exceptional cases. A Dutch shipping line will open up Waterford Port to new international trade routes when it commences a weekly service next month. The Waterford to Rotterdam route, operated by BG Freightline, will act as a deep-sea feeder for Irish importers and exporters. Terminal Operations Manager Derek Madigan says it means shipping options for local businesses will be vastly expanded.
It means we've now got what's called a feeder deep-sea service operating out of Waterford. We've never had anything like that before out of Waterford Port. We were strictly a short sea container service port. So it's a new departure. It's been asked for by a lot of the importers and exporters in the region for a number of years. It's took a long time to bring to fruition, but happily now it looks as if it'll be starting sometime in July.
Derek says previously goods for destinations beyond Europe would typically have shipped from Dublin.
They had to operate through Dublin or Port of Cork to get their boxes to the non-European destinations, as I would call them, the likes of Africa, Far East, America, South America. So now these boxes can actually be delivered into Port of Waterford, put on a vessel there, on a BG vessel, sent across to Rotterdam, and then put on the mother vessel to go to whatever part of the globe they need to go to.
Work to repair the road surface on Lombard and William Streets in Waterford City has been causing traffic disruption. The road work on one of the main arteries into the city centre began this morning and will continue until Thursday. Traffic city-bound from the Dunmore Road will be diverted via Park Road, Water Street onto Catherine Street. Conor O'Neill is the district engineer for Waterford City. He told Damien Tiernan the road is badly in need of repair.
Well, I suppose firstly, just let me say that the work is critical, that it has to be done. About 18 months ago, you remember the snowstorms that were there, and this road was particularly badly hit, and it has deteriorated extremely fast even since then. So we really had to put it in the roadworks programme and get it done this year. Now, unfortunately, there's no good time to do work on any stretch of the Dunmore Road. We're looking at 13,000 vehicles a day, and night work wasn't possible in this area because there's a lot of residential people, there's people living in that area along that street.
A new tourist hostel has opened in Dungarvan. 21 full and part-time staff are employed at Dungarvan Hostel, which can sleep 102 people. It's located in Oris Brua on David's Quay in the town. The listed building has been completely renovated. Owner Kay McKiernan started the project with her husband 4 years ago.
We came in here and there was a hole in the roof at the back. The chimney was collapsing in at the back. You can imagine the state of the place with dead birds all over the place. The walls were sodden. Now, you wouldn't believe looking around, because I thought, will they ever dry? Will they ever dry? But they did, and it's thanks to all the people who worked on this that it is the way it is today. So hopefully it'll live for another 100 years.
Mark Ronan is the manager of the Dungarvan Hostel. He says there's huge demand for accommodation in the town.
Everyone has seen over the last couple of years how busy the Greenway has gone with bed space. They're talking that there isn't enough. There's so many people doing Airbnb at the moment, and they're crying out for beds. I think there's a thing on Airbnb where we're one of the highest in the countries where they can't get beds. So hopefully this will help it and get people into the town and not have them come in to town and leave straight away. They're going to stay in town and spend, and it benefits everybody.
WNR Sport.
Thanks to Boland's High&Dye Waterford. Preview the award-winning 192 High&Dye range. See bolands.com.
And a very good afternoon, I'm Gavin Whelan. First to Gaelic Games, and Roscommon senior football manager Anthony Cunningham has now won provincial titles in both hurling and football in different provinces. The former Galway hurling boss guided the Primrose and Blue to a 113 to 12 points win over Galway in yesterday's Connacht football decider at Pearse Stadium. Conor Cox was the star of the show for the Rossies, scoring 5 points. Cunningham believes that Roscommon can make an impact in the Super 8s.
They'll be disappointed with Dublin in the last couple of years of the Super 8s, and I think there's a different stamp on these guys, but they've got to back it up. That's what we've said since the Mayo match, back it up, and that's what they did.
Tipperary will have to count the cost of their injuries ahead of the Munster Senior Hurling Championship final. Cathal Barrett and Patrick Bonner-Mahers both suffered leg injuries in the 122 to 21 points victory against Limerick in Thurles. Premier boss Liam Sheedy doesn't expect to see them at the Gaelic grounds in a fortnight.
I'd say at this stage, it's highly unlikely that either of them, I'd say, will make the Munster final. Obviously with any type of a strain at all, it'll take longer than a week or two, I would imagine. But look, as I said, that's the nature of the game. There's always a danger that somebody gets a knock, and that's why we have a panel. So we called on our panel today and they responded.
Clare out of the championship. The Banner beat Cork by 223 to 218 in their round robin game in Ennis, but were eliminated on points difference. Tiger Woods is setting his sights on the final major of the year after finishing just outside the top 20 of the US Open at Pebble Beach. The 15-time major winner carded a final round of 69 to end the week on 2 under par. However, he was ultimately 11 shots back from the eventual winner, Gary Woodland. Woods has never played at this year's Open Championship venue, Royal Portrush, and says he'll be getting there early next month to test it out.
I'll get there early and do a little bit of homework and see what the golf course is, if it's going to be dry, fast, not. Hopefully I'll get practice rounds with different winds, try and get a feel for the golf course, but nothing like playing Open Championship.
Groups A and B will be finalised at the Women's World Cup this evening. Host France can seal top spot in Group A if they avoid defeat against Nigeria at 5. At the same time, Norway take on South Korea. In the 8pm kickoffs, two-time winners Germany are already assured of a knockout place ahead of their final game against eliminated South Africa. Spain and China compete for second place. To news of rugby, and Ireland's under-20 side will be hoping for their third win against England in a row this evening. The pair meet in the first game of the 5th to 8th place World Championship playoffs in Rosario. 7:30 Irish time is the kick-off there. Waterford's and Ardmore native Thomas Ahern is part of the Irish panel in that one. Finally, to news of racing, where Kilbeggan hosts a 7-race card this evening. The first goes to post at 6pm. The feature is the Galway Plate Trial, that one getting underway at 8:30. Sports news on WLR, brought to you by Boland's Waterford.